Ford Motors is anticipating and organizing some of its electric vehicle plans by discontinuing their three-row SUV and delaying their truck next-generation pickup, while also adding a new pickup and a van to their future lineup, as it adjusts to a slower-than-expected growth in electric vehicles. The slowdown in demand for electric vehicles has caused automakers like Ford, General Motors, others to delay or cancel plans to avoid spending too much on vehicles that are consumers and not selling quickly as expected.
Ford, the American car manufacturer, has presented its accounts. It hasn't captured the profits that the market expected. It has hit the market hard with an 18.4% drop, the worst daily decline in a Ford session since 2008. General Motors and Stellantis were also dragged down by results that were also disappointing. But Ford's photo suggests that the automotive sector may also be experiencing an economic slowdown.
The flagship brand and pride of the United States was sure of just one thing. They urgently needed a 100% electric truck that represented Ford. The fleeting success of Rivian pickup trucks was enough for the Oval brand to make hasty decisions, delivering a product that also enjoyed fleeting success, but which left it in a very bad position in its first attempt to flirt with the world of gasoline-free engines. Described as a total disaster, today we will look at how Ford was able to disappoint millions of buyers who thought they were ready to try an electric vehicle. But, above all, it shows just how far the United States is behind when it comes to Chinese technology. First, briefly, this truck deserves a small, but very small tribute to an undeniable legacy of the vehicle that best represents the strong breed. In the 70s, the Ford F-150. It positioned itself as the undisputed champion in the pickup market, pushing aside its main rivals like Chevrolet and Dodge. D-Series. This victory wasn't just a fluke, but rather the result of a strategic combination of innovation, reliability, and an emotional connection with the American public. But if there's one thing Ford owes millions of sales to, it's its unique advertisements, where it really showcased the power of the strong breed. In the 70s, Ford took a bold and memorable marketing approach to highlight the toughness and reliability of its trucks, especially the iconic F100 and F100. In Argentina, one of the most legendary commercials was the one featuring the Hercules back in 1974. In this commercial, an F-100 was dropped from an Argentine Air Force C-31 Hercules plane to demonstrate its ability to withstand any situation. This bold spectacle positioned the F-100 as the strongest pickup in Argentina. And it was etched in the memory of Argentinians as an example of advertising innovation of the time. Unmatched ads that brands present to us today. In the United States, Ford's marketing. In those years, it was also known for highlighting values of resilience, hard work, and a connection to the American spirit.
What is this all about?
The ads for the F-Series used to show the trucks in rural or industrial settings, tackling tough terrain or demanding tasks, with slogans that highlighted their durability. These campaigns helped solidify the F-Series' reputation as an essential tool for workers and farmers, contributing to its unmatched popularity. This approach marked a turning point for Ford fans. How did brands connect emotionally with their consumers? Mixing in aspirations of strength, national pride, and trust in a product that seemed ready for the job. Tough. As tough as the reality this brand is facing today. Let's talk about this electrifying failure. The main problem was believing that this truck would be good for work, but especially for use in the field. A lie that cost Ford a pretty penny. To start off, there were a lot of failures. A product that took very little time to design. It was even the victim of a serious fire at the Ford factory itself, which left this product in a very bad position. When a vehicle catches fire, it's always a problem, but it's much worse if that vehicle is electric. When this happens, putting out the fire is completely different than with a gas or diesel model, because the batteries act as fuel and it takes a lot of hours. Even days. Yes, you heard that right, days to put it out. We've seen it many times, and it's becoming more common, simply because there are more electric cars on the streets. That said, some cases have more impact than others, like the fire of the Rivian Concept 1, which Richard Hammond crashed, or the Ford F-150 Lightning. That caught fire coming out of the factory a few months ago and has been a real headache for the brand. In February of this year, it was announced that it was stopping production of the Ford F-150 Lightning, the first zero-emissions version of their popular pickup. Shortly after, the Detroit Free Press reported on the incident that led to Ford's decision. On February 4th, an F-150 Lightning, parked in a lot alongside other newly manufactured units, caught fire. The trucks were waiting for a final quality check before heading to the dealerships, and quickly, the fire from the first unit spread to the F-150 Lightning next to it, so the Dearborn Fire Department had a tough time putting it out. For this reason, Ford immediately halted production to find out the cause of the fire and determine if it could have been caused by a manufacturing defect. The assembly line was down for 5 weeks before it started up again. During all this time, quickly, they assured that there was no defect that could cause a spontaneous fire and more units of the F-150 Lightning. After the investigation, the brand also confirmed that the units that had already been manufactured shouldn't be affected by any defect. So the fire was an isolated incident. Apparently, the Lovalo brand managed to pinpoint the specific problem that caused the fire in that unit, and it was related to the lithium battery, which is manufactured by the South Korean company SK. In any case, SK also halted the production of its batteries in South Korea for 8 weeks to investigate whether the problem was due to a manufacturing defect in their batteries. However, this isn't the first time a manufacturer has had issues with fires in their electric cars. General Motors had to deal with random fires in several Chevrolet Volts, and even asked their owners to park the car outside of their garages and far from other cars to avoid any scares until they found a solution. Of course, Chevrolet's image took a nosedive. In the end, it was a problem with the battery manufacturer, LG, and they had to pay General Motors $1.9 billion. Still, the case of the Chevrolet Bolt continues to bring in furious customers. On its part, Tesla has been accused of spontaneous fires in some of its vehicles. And the truth is that several cases of Tesla catching fire have gained notoriety, like the Model 3, which needed an hour and thousands of liters of water to put out. After this serious incident, sales immediately dropped, and for that reason, Ford decided to drastically cut production. For her part, Emma Berg, a spokesperson for Ford, said that the automaker will now produce 1,600 trucks per week in 2024 at its Rouge Electric Vehicle Center in Dearborn, Michigan, down from the previous plan of 5,000 units weekly. Sales of the Lightning, which has a starting price of $49,995, increased steadily throughout 2023 and reached a monthly record of about 4,400 units sold in November. However, the company only sold 16,365 electric pickups this year up to November, which is a 68% drop compared to the previous year. Of course, this is terrible news. Ford has postponed $12 billion in investments for electric vehicle production amid a cooling demand of these battery models. They also stopped the construction of a battery plant in Kentucky. The United States is also scaling back another facility in Michigan. But hold on, no, this fire is the only one that drove away buyers. The terrible reviews from their buyers have also played a part, especially referring to its low range. Just a month after hitting the market, in May 2021, the Ford F-150 Lightning had over 100,000 reservations. Even a year before it was officially on sale, expectations were high. But some realists don't think all this fuss is reasonable. Tyler Hoover, car lover and collector with almost 1.5 million followers on YouTube. He's one of the buyers who regrets the new electric truck that Ford touted as revolutionary and important for the future of the United States. This truck can't do normal truck things, Hoover said in a viral video posted in September that has racked up 3 million views. This former Ford fan rated his experience trying to use the electric truck as a total disaster. For what it's supposedly designed for, hauling more weight, The tests were enough to show that the power of an electric motor falls way short of a turbocharged V6. He tested it with a simple trailer that he set up to visit his mechanic and pick up another one of his vehicles. A vintage Ford, made in the 1930s. As soon as he set out to tow the empty trailer, the Lightning's performance started to drop like a rock. The F-150. Lightning simply couldn't handle the weight, which ended up weakening his other functions. The charge of its battery disappeared in an instant. For example, Hoover charged it for 200 miles and his mechanic was only 32 miles away. The total trip of 32 miles made 150 miles of battery range vanish. In his own analysis, he says if a truck that tows 3,500 pounds can't even go 100 miles, that's ridiculously stupid to call it tough. This truck can't do the normal things a truck is supposed to do, let alone work in the field, he pointed out. The YouTuber also lamented that, under those conditions, the driver of the F-150 Lightning has to stop every hour to recharge the batteries, which would take about 45 minutes each time. And that's not practical at all. Hoover later admitted that his trailer and his 1930 Ford were not necessarily aerodynamic. But his video highlighted an important point. The extra weight and drag can deal a tremendous blow to an EV's range. Gasoline trucks also lose efficiency when towing, but with those, it's easier and quicker to stop and refuel instead of waiting 45 minutes to recharge. Another horror story is being written for this model. Its owner, Eric Rowe, was taking a nice, easy trip with his family and 2 dogs. And he was doing an ultra-fast charge at one of the Electrify America chargers. Yes. It's the charging network that Volkswagen is rolling out in the United States as a penance for the emissions scandal of 2015. When the charging process was underway, Eric heard a loud noise, and both the vehicle and the charger became useless and lifeless. After realizing he couldn't do anything, he had to call for roadside assistance since he was over 1,600 kilometers from home. It wasn't the first time he used the Electrify America network with his electric F-150. When you're working with such high currents, over 50,000 watts and hundreds of amps, a lot of things can go wrong. But both electric vehicles and charging stations have multiple layers of protection to make sure everything goes smoothly. In this case, apparently, something has gone terribly wrong. The F-150. Lightning had to be removed with a crane on wheels due to the inability to select neutral gear on the transmission. This is done to prevent mechanical damage. The vehicle has been taken to an official brand service center to find out what happened. Eric Rowe explained on Twitter that the vehicle is currently at the dealership, waiting for a new battery, which is also faulty even though it was working when the tow truck arrived. Until they have the replacement part, they won't do the diagnosis, and they didn't give him an estimated date to fix the problem. Quickly after it went viral, Emma Berg, the global communications director of Ford Motors Company, took an interest in the case. This means that the problem is already known at Ford's headquarters and that it's not just a simple after-sales issue, like so many others that happen every day. In fact, Ford is in contact with Electrify America and investigating what caused this breakdown. Double, to see who's going to pay the price. This leads us to think that either it's the first time this has happened or one of the first times. Of course, Eric Rowe wouldn't have done anything wrong. Electric vehicles can charge anywhere as long as the industry standards are respected. It doesn't matter that a Ford charged at a charger that, in the end, it's Volkswagen's responsibility. In the United States, this isn't anything new. It happens every day. Of course, this greatly affects everyone interested in getting an electric truck. The news for Ford is not good at all regarding the response it received from its fans. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Ford's intention was to compete with a truck that had caused quite a stir. A certain Rivian, but this also brought nothing but headaches to its buyers. Listen to this. Mitch Dunkey, a farmer and resident of Utah, bought his Rivian R1T just over a year ago. During that time, and after about 38,600 kilometers, he's had 7 breakdowns that left him stranded. The first one had issues with the propulsion system, and the rest had brake problems, both with the parking system and with the braking system itself. In all these situations, the car stopped working and they had to tow it. That's quite a few issues for a truck that's only 15 months old. And the truth is that Donkey got fed up with the R1T, so he reached out to Rivian to return it. He argued that they hadn't managed to fix the problems, and that he didn't feel comfortable with a car that could leave him stranded at any moment, whether working or traveling with his family. Without a doubt, the Michigan company has bought back the R1T from Donkey for exactly the same price he paid for it. In return, the brand asked him to delete all the videos from his social media. All of this immediately caused a stir on social media. Let's remember that the United States is still a country that's very much against everything electrified. Of course, all this news is just fuel for the fire. For this reason, and other factors, Rivian sold fewer trucks this year than last year. And they had to lay off 15% of their workers. The company anticipates a stagnation in production and has decided to focus on cost reduction. The company hasn't announced the number of affected workers, but they had 14,122 employees at the end of 2024, according to their latest annual report. Economic and geopolitical uncertainties and pressures, especially the impact of historically high interest rates, affected Rivian's expectations for 2024. Given these market conditions, the company expects to produce 40,000 vehicles in 2024, in line with the production in 2023, the manufacturer has indicated. Analysts were expecting a target of over 80,000. Additionally, Rivian is expecting investments of $1.75 billion and an adjusted negative gross operating result of $2.7 billion. In short, they're losing money. Another serious problem with this cute truck is that it drains itself. It's like your gas vehicle had 50 liters, and 2 days later, magically, there will be 20 liters left in your gas tank. What a beautiful surprise, right? All batteries drain, even when they're just sitting there, doing nothing, apparently. This happens with the 12-volt batteries in any car, with a laptop battery, and with the high-voltage battery of an electric car. Even if the vehicle or device in question is just sitting there, the chemical reaction that causes the battery to drain is still happening. Although more slowly, perhaps it has happened to you sometime. When you've wanted to use a battery-powered device again after a long time, it turns out it's dead. The Rivian R1T loses about 3% of its charge daily. Considering that its battery has a capacity of 130 kilowatt hours, we're talking about 2.4 kilowatt hour being used up each day while it's just sitting there. This energy consumption could be due to the R1T trying to keep the battery temperature within an appropriate range, even in a dormant state. The car's electronic system seems, in general, to remain on greater alert than the Ford's. Upon restart, the Rivian's multimedia system boots up much faster than the Ford's. That seems to struggle to wake up from its little hibernation. As we said, discharge while at rest or phantom discharge occurs in any lithium battery and therefore in all electric cars to a greater or lesser extent. But without a doubt, the case of the Rivian R1T could be considered anomalous, since it is a very significant loss and, ultimately, it is a poor use of energy. That's terrible news for any buyer looking for an electric vehicle. On the positive side of things, if that energy is used to keep the battery temperature within a certain range, that expenditure could extend the battery's lifespan. But hey, dear friends, the history of these North American electric pickup trucks has been full of failures. Chinese technology to this day. It has managed to navigate this explosive and fiery market well, leaving traditional brands looking foolish. It's not just in electric vehicles, it's also doing well in tires. Check out the next video. A big hug, goodbye. Honestly, only Ford could put it back together.